tomahawks and shooting bow and arrow, and so we have a little bit of space. So I feel very thankful, and it's just nice.
When Hollywood stars disappear from the public eye, rumors spread quickly on social media and in the news. This is exactly what happened with Jason Momoa, the well-known Hawaiian actor famous for playing Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. While filming the Aquaman movie, Momoa suddenly stopped making public appearances, which made people wonder what was going on. However, what investigators found in his luxury home in London isn't good, especially conservative commentator Jesse Waters, who was left speechless on live TV as photos circulated among industry insiders. One reaction kept coming up: "This is disturbing." Now everyone is asking the same question, not just what happened, but how could someone who seemed to have it all fall apart so drastically behind closed doors? The unexpected discovery: being famous comes with many perks, wealth, admiration, and sometimes the ability to keep secrets. Jason Momoa, the Hawaiian actor, seemed to have it all, but behind the scenes something unsettling was happening. It all started in late 2021 when Jason was filming the eagerly anticipated Aquaman sequel in London. The production was already facing delays and budget concerns when news broke that would change everything. Jason had contracted COVID-19, forcing him to isolate and putting the entire production at risk. Jason is fine, luckily, and is now isolating after getting a positive test, but it's a real headache for the film's bosses, who are now worrying about having to delay their tight filming schedule. An insider revealed what seemed like a minor setback would soon unravel into something far more disturbing. While most celebrities might check into a 5-star hotel to recover, Jason chose something more extravagant: a sprawling £20 million mansion in North London with 8 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, and amenities that would make even the most pampered stars jealous. The production team maintained daily contact with their star. Everyone involved believed Jason was handling the isolation well, even participating in virtual production meetings and sharing occasional social media updates that showed him smiling and apparently healthy. But as days stretched into weeks, communication became increasingly erratic. Calls went unanswered, text responses became shorter and sometimes incoherent. "We started to worry when he missed 3 scheduled virtual meetings in a row," one production assistant later revealed. The director was understanding, but there was a lot of money on the line with every day of delay. What no one realized was that behind the mansion's gates, Jason Momoa's temporary residence was becoming the scene of something unprecedented, a transformation that would later have property managers calling their attorneys and insurance companies in panic. A palace fit for Poseidon. To understand why the discovery was so shocking, you must first picture Jason Momoa's temporary home. This wasn't just any mansion, it was an estate that screamed excess in every possible way. Set on 11.5 acres of pristine land in one of London's most exclusive neighborhoods, the neoclassical mansion featured a 3-car garage, a private security lodge, and rolling greenery that ensured complete privacy. Inside, no expense had been spared. The home boasted a professional-grade cinema room where Jason could watch rough cuts of his latest work. A custom bowling alley provided entertainment during those long quarantine days. But most striking of all was the massive indoor swimming pool, fitting for the actor playing the King of Atlantis, surrounded by marble columns. Perhaps the most telling thing about Jason's personality was the custom climbing wall that was installed at the front of the property. The actor, known for his love of rock climbing and outdoor adventures, apparently couldn't bear the thought of being cooped up without a physical challenge. Jason will be living the superstar life despite being away from home, reported. Isolation eventually led to behaviors that raised serious concerns. Days stretched into weeks as Jason recovered from his initial symptoms. Production on Aquaman remained partially suspended, with scenes being reworked to accommodate his absence. Co-stars including Amber Heard, Nicole Kidman, and William Dafoe continued filming scenes that didn't require his presence. During this period, Jason's only connection to the outside world was his phone and laptop. He occasionally posted on social media, sharing glimpses of his recovery and expressing gratitude for fan support, but these carefully curated posts revealed nothing about what was really happening behind those mansion walls. According to a household staff member who spoke anonymously, his daily routine had started normally enough. Jason would wake up early, meditate, and work out in the private gym. He'd take conference calls with the production team and his management, assuring everyone he was recovering well and eager to return to the set. But around day 7 of his isolation, something changed. The staff member noticed that Jason's requests became increasingly unusual. He ordered art supplies, dozens of canvases, brushes, and gallons of paint in various colors. He requested unusual food combinations at odd hours. Sleep patterns became erratic, with lights visible throughout the mansion at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning. Security footage would later show Jason pacing the grounds at night, sometimes talking to himself, gesturing animatedly as if in conversation with unseen companions. During video calls with the production team, they noticed his typically well-groomed appearance had given way to an unkempt beard and disheveled hair. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, suggesting he wasn't sleeping well. It was like watching someone slowly unravel, one production assistant later commented. We'd seen actors struggle with the pressures of big productions before, but this was different. This was concerning. What started as a routine clean after Jason's departure would soon turn into something the property managers never expected. The first signs on a November morning, the cleaning crew arrived expecting a routine cleanup after Jason Momoa's stay. Jason had vacated the property days earlier, reportedly having recovered enough to return to the Aquaman set. The head of the cleaning service had worked for the property management company for years and had seen all kinds of messes left by high-profile clients, but she wasn't prepared for what awaited inside. The first red flag appeared before they even entered the house. Several empty tequila bottles were scattered across the front steps, premium bottles worth hundreds of pounds each casually discarded. A torn motorcycle magazine lay soaking in the morning dew beside them. I thought maybe there had been a small party the night before he left, the cleaning supervisor later told property management. It's not uncommon with celebrities, especially after being cooped up for weeks. But as they unlocked the massive front door and stepped inside, it became clear this was no ordinary situation. The entrance hall was relatively untouched, with its marble floors and soaring ceilings. As they moved deeper into the house, the true state of affairs began to reveal itself. In the kitchen, dishes were piled high in and around the sink. Food containers from high-end London restaurants were stacked on countertops, some still containing half-eaten meals. The refrigerator was filled with spoiled food and more alcohol. The living room walls, once adorned with priceless artwork, now displayed strange symbols drawn in what appeared to be charcoal. The expensive Persian rug had been rolled back, revealing the hardwood floor beneath, covered in odd diagrams, swirling lines like ocean waves and repeated trident-like shapes. In the cinema room, the projector was still running, cycling through ocean documentaries with the sound muted. The leather recliners had been rearranged to form a circle in the center of the room, with notebooks open on each seat filled with handwritten observations about marine life and ocean conservation, some entries becoming increasingly incoherent toward the later pages. At this point, we were documenting everything with photographs, the cleaning supervisor explained. This wasn't just a messy tenant. This was something else entirely. Something far more concerning. What they found in Jason Momoa's estate was beginning to look very concerning. The shocking revelation: the master bedroom was transformed into something that left the cleaning crew speechless. The king-sized bed was buried under piles of clothing, some clearly expensive designer items still with tags attached. Empty food containers were scattered across the floor. The adjoining sitting area had been converted into what appeared to be a makeshift workshop, with tools spread across antique furniture and mysterious stains on the cream-colored carpet. But the real shock came when they stepped into the bathroom. The luxurious marble bathroom with its sunken tub and walk-in shower had been completely transformed into an art studio. The walls were covered in hand-painted murals, swirling ocean scenes filled with strange sea creatures and abstract patterns. These weren't professional paintings, they were raw, emotional works created with whatever material had been available. Some appeared to have been painted with regular household paint, others with what looked like food coloring or even coffee grounds mixed with water. It was like walking into the mind of someone who had been completely isolated and needed to express something urgent. One witness described it as beautiful in a disturbing way. Beside the bathtub sat dozens of empty notebooks filled with writings and sketches, journal entries that revealed a mind grappling with isolation, fame, and deeper existential questions. The property managers immediately secured these personal items, but rumors of their contents would eventually reach the press. The journals contain pages of scattered thoughts about celebrity life and self-doubt. In the private gym, everything had been rearranged, weights were stacked into odd towers, and resistance bands were tied into complicated knots crisscrossing doorways like a web. The setup looked less like a workout space and more like some kind of ritualistic scene. When Jesse Waters, an American television program host, received photos of the house, his reaction summed it up: "This is disturbing. This looks like the aftermath of a complete mental breakdown." The biggest question remained: what had happened to Jason Momoa during those weeks alone? The mental health question. As news of the mansion's condition began to circulate among industry insiders, mental health experts were quietly consulted. Without directly examining Jason, they could only speculate, but the evidence suggested someone struggling with the psychological effects of isolation, possibly compounded by the pressure of an expensive production hanging in the balance. Isolation can affect anyone, regardless of fame or fortune, explained one psychologist who works with entertainment professionals. Sometimes those with the most active social personalities suffer the most profound reactions to being suddenly cut off from human contact. Jason had always been known as a highly physical, active person. Friends described him as someone who needed to be moving, creating, or socializing, and being confined to a mansion, no matter how luxurious, would have been particularly challenging for someone with his temperament. The timing was also significant. This incident occurred not long after Jason had announced his separation from his wife, Lisa Bonet. Though the split was described as amicable, it represented another major life change during an already turbulent period. Production team members who had been in contact with Jason during his quarantine reported that his behavior had seemed increasingly erratic. In their video calls, he would appear disheveled, and conversations would jump between topics unpredictably. Some calls he missed entirely. "We were worried about him, but there's nothing much you can do when someone is isolating due to CO protocols," one production assistant admitted. Mental health professionals who reviewed the photographs of the estate noted several concerning patterns. The obsessive nature of the art covering nearly every available surface suggested someone trying desperately to externalize internal thoughts. The environmental themes that dominated the artwork reflected Jason's professional concerns. What they found in Jason Momoa's estate wasn't just physical damage, it was evidence of someone going through a deeply personal struggle behind closed doors. A struggle that would eventually require professional intervention and raise serious questions about celebrity mental health. But there was one more shocking discovery that would bring Jesse Waters into the picture and turn this private matter into a public conversation. As one Warner Brothers executive reportedly whispered upon seeing the full documentation, "This is disturbing. We need to handle this very carefully." The environmental scandal. Among the chaos in the mansion, the cleaning crew made perhaps the most damning discovery in the garage area. Jason Momoa has long positioned himself as an environmental advocate, frequently speaking out about ocean conservation and the dangers of plastic pollution. His passion for the environment seemed genuine. Yet the garage of the London estate told a different story. Stacks of single-use plastic bottles, hundreds of them, were piled in corners. Dozens of empty aerosol cans that had contained spray paint were scattered across workbenches. When photos of this environmental negligence reached conservative commentator Jesse Waters, he didn't hesitate to highlight the apparent hypocrisy. "Here's a guy who lectures everyone about saving the oceans while creating his own environmental disaster behind closed doors," Waters declared. The story quickly gained traction in certain media circles, with Waters dedicating a segment to what they had found in Jason Momoa's estate. The contrast between the actor's public environmentalism and his private behavior became fodder for discussions about celebrity authenticity. An inventory compiled by the cleaning company revealed over 700 single-use plastic water bottles, despite the mansion having an advanced water filtration system. More than 50 aerosol spray paint cans had been used and discarded improperly. Fast food packaging, much of it from establishments using non-biodegradable containers, filled several large garbage bags. Environmental experts consulted on this situation suggested that the single occupant had generated waste equivalent to a family of 6 during the same period. What made the situation particularly ironic was that just weeks before his COVID diagnosis, Jason had given a passionate interview about his commitment to reducing plastic waste on film sets. He described personal habits like always carrying a reusable water bottle and refusing single-use plastics. "It's one thing to have a moment of weakness or to slip up occasionally," noted an environmental activist. "It's another to preach sustainability while living in a way that's completely contrary to those values." Representatives for the property management company scrambled to contain the situation, arranging for specialized cleaning crews and proper disposal of all potentially hazardous materials. They also attempted to keep the full details from leaking to mainstream media, concerned about their high-profile clients' privacy and their own reputation for discretion. But it was too late. The story had begun to spread, putting Jason's team in crisis management mode just as he was attempting to return to work on set. The road to recovery. When confronted with the evidence of what had happened during his isolation, Jason Momoa did something unexpected. He took full responsibility. Through his representatives, he acknowledged that he had struggled during quarantine and offered to cover all damages and cleaning costs for the estate. More importantly, he agreed to seek professional help. Sources close to the actor revealed that he had begun working with both a therapist specializing in isolation-related mental health issues and an addiction counselor to address some concerning patterns that had emerged during his quarantine. Privately, Jason reached out to several environmental activists. In lengthy conversations, he explained his mental state during isolation without making excuses for his behavior. These honest discussions eventually led to collaborative initiatives focusing on mental health within the environmental movement. The production of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom became a test case for sustainable filmmaking practices. Jason worked with environmental consultants to eliminate single-use plastics from the set entirely. Water stations replaced plastic bottles, reusable containers were provided to all cast and crew, and comprehensive recycling protocols were implemented. Jesse Waters, who had initially seized on the story as evidence of celebrity hypocrisy, eventually acknowledged on his program that the situation reflected a broader mental health crisis triggered by pandemic isolation. What they found in Jason Momoa's estate isn't just about one actor's behavior, Waters conceded, it's a wake-up call about how isolation affects us all. Famous or not, the need for connection is universal. By the time Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom wrapped production, Jason appeared to be in a much better place. Friends reported that he had emerged from the experience with a new perspective on fame, mental health, and his responsibility as a public figure. The London mansion underwent extensive renovations to repair the damage. Interestingly, the property owners decided to preserve one of Jason's bathroom murals, an underwater scene of particular beauty, after art experts suggested it showed genuine artistic merit. What would you do if you found yourself isolated for weeks on end? How do you think fame affects mental health during difficult times? Let us know in the comments below.